Do you remember being a kid in the 80s or 90s and having fond memories of visiting your grandmother? Whether it was your grandma from your mother or your father's side, they had eerily similar tastes. From the peculiar chintzy living room to the familiar potpourri in the bathroom, take a walk down memory lane and tour her home as you remember it. Be sure to stay for the last one because you remember seeing them in her garden and she had a story for each. You enter Nana's house and are greeted with old family photos. The foyer or hallway had an area that was a time capsule. Generations of family members you wouldn't even recognize unless they were pointed out to you, not even your mother. Your grandma pointed to a color-faded school photo of a toothless child. You look just like your mother. From teenagers you had no clue who they were to faded wedding photos. These frames captured forgotten fashions and familiar smiles, and even a baby version of you was there. You turn your head slightly to the left of the coat rack, and there was a porcelain spotted leopard proudly guarding the entrance of the house. Next, you step into the living room, and your eyes are immediately assaulted. Let's just say a lot is going on. Some would call it a chintz living room. It was a bold testament to her belief that every inch of a room needs to be decorated. Every surface bloomed, from ornate rugs from faraway countries to floral-spattered sofas and armchairs to daisy-printed curtains and framed windows. Your mother commented on how it has not changed and how busy it looked. Nana retorted, "It's not clutter," she insisted. "It's curated." Throw pillows in competing floral patterns created what she called a living bouquet. And no one better rearrange her carefully orchestrated art installation. Yes, Grandma was a maximalist. You saw the Royal Dansk cookie tin beside her armchair, thinking of a cookie. Opening it revealed not buttery delights, but Nana's sewing supplies. You were miffed. Instead of cookies, you found spools of thread and a pincushion that resembled a cushy toy. Is this a toy? No, it had needles and pins in them. Each time you visited, you always checked, hoping the day it contained cookies. It was the ultimate lesson in disappointment, but you always checked. If you wanted cookies, you always had to ask. She always kept a secret stash of her homemade cookies. Grandma spent months laboriously cutting, sewing, and basting patchwork squares to make quilted blankets in her armchair. It was a fabric family tree, each patch holding a story. This was your mother's prom dress. That was your uncle's sweater. And this piece was from the curtains in our first house. It took her 10 years to complete. The result was a beautiful bedspread, and nobody was ever allowed to use it. Besides the armchair was a magazine rack bulged with years of Cosmopolitan, Better Homes and Gardens, and Woman's Day. The bottom shelves housed her Reader's Digest and crossword puzzles, which she challenged you to do. You browsed over the things adorned over the mantel fireplace and noticed more family photos. A collection of wide-eyed Precious Moments figurines lined her mantel, depicting innocence. Each one is carefully dusted with a special brush. "Aren't they so cute, like little angels?" she'd say. Or, "This one reminds me of your mother and father." Of course, you saw them when you were big enough. She wouldn't let small grandkids near them. If you listen carefully, you'll hear the antique grandfather clock ticking in the corner of the living room. If it could talk, this family heirloom could tell you about your family history, featuring Roman numerals on the yellow clock face. These clocks often have elaborate chiming sequences that mimic those of churches. It reminded you better behave. Its pendulum swung with hypnotic precision, though it was 17 minutes slow. Grandma refused to fix it, saying, "It's earned the right to keep its own time." The chimes marked every hour, slightly off-key, but comforting. A walk into the kitchen was where Grandma spent most of her time. You look at the stove. Something is always cooking in the speckled enamelware pot roaster. It was a family legend, seasoned with decades of Sunday dinners and holiday feasts. You couldn't tell how old the pot was, but you knew it was ancient. The speckled spots were perfect for hiding stains and dents. It was easy to clean, too. A good rinse and wipe will do. If you looked long enough, you could see outer space. Over at the table was what looked like a plump hen. It was her teapot cozy. It was hand-knit by her sister, Grand Auntie Mabel. She had made it while recovering from a mysterious illness in the mountains. Yes, it was fuzzy. It kept the hot pot of water hot for at least an hour. Beside her teapot were her wafer cookies. They were either strawberry or vanilla flavored. The colorful magnets on her refrigerator caught your eye, especially the fruit and veggie magnets. You admired how adorable they looked. The little produce gave you a warm, fuzzy feeling. When no one was looking, you rearranged them into little scenes, creating tiny dramas between the apples and carrots. You opened the fridge and saw many Cool Whip and Country Crock containers. You're thinking, she can't be eating this much of this stuff. You open them to see leftover half-eaten cakes, desserts, or meatloaf from the night before. Nothing is labeled. Only she knows what is what. In the pantry were those hinged glass containers with the lead-painted vegetables. You knew they were fruits and vegetables. She used a Ronco food dehydrator to make them, but you couldn't tell what was in them unless she labeled them. Usually it was apples, tomatoes, and apricots. Her Pyrex collection, which included every pattern from the 1950s onward, was in the cupboards. Each piece told a story. The harvest gold dishes evoked memories of Thanksgiving, while the spring blossom pattern meant Easter dinner. Memories of Nana's casseroles came flooding back. Open another cabinet door and you'll see the same dinner plates she's had for at least 25 years. You know, the ones with the flowers on them. And whenever she had large family gatherings, she pulled out the wicker holders that felt like they were about to give you a splinter. They were used to put underneath hot plates or paper plates for cookouts. Below the counter was a collection of plastic bags. It was either a plastic bag that stored more plastic bags or a storage box with plastic bags meticulously folded into neat triangles, organized by size and store of origin. She says, "You never know when you'll need a good bag." The collection grew weekly despite never being used. Another item on the dining table or perched upon the mantelpiece was a vase filled with silk flowers. Although they may have been a little dusty or frayed around the edges, they added a splash of pastel color. Some arrangements had survived multiple decades, but she still appreciated them. In the middle of the dining table was ribbon candy in a solid jewel glass dish. The candy would fuse into a solid mass within days of being set out, requiring surgical precision to get one piece out. It's still candy, and you weren't going to be denied. If you tried chewing it, it would stick to your teeth and make you think you will never get it out. On display were her collectible souvenir spoons from all her travels. From state fairs to towns and cities she visited, to even the Olympics, there was a story to tell. The story behind the Saskatchewan spoon grew more elaborate with each telling, eventually involving a mounted policeman and a wayward moose. You went snooping around in Nana's bedroom and found out why she smells like she does. The White Diamonds perfume bottle by Elizabeth Taylor stood like a crown jewel on her dresser. That perfume announced her presence before she entered any room. She'd received the first bottle as a gift in 1991 and never looked back. We asked her, "What's that smell?" And she replied proudly, "It's my special occasion perfume," though every day seemed to qualify as a special occasion. You'll also find a cube picture frame with more family photos of her children and grandkids. Each image is slightly faded from years. School portraits mixed with candid shots, creating an ever-changing gallery. She claimed the embarrassing ones were her favorites. That ornate trinket box held what she called her life's treasures: costume jewelry, loose change, AA batteries, and an endless supply of bobby pins you bent out of shape. The lid's hinge squeaked in a specific way, letting Grandma know you were snooping around in her room. A miscellaneous collection of hand-knitted toys, threadbare teddies, and slightly creepy china dolls were somewhere in her room, guest bed, on a high shelf, or on a day bench. You initially thought they were toys, but you hesitated and had a closer inspection. They were not store-bought, but handmade by Grandma. Some had different eyes. The teddy bear looked tattered, and the china dolls had strange expressions. Every time you walked by them, you had to check to see if any of them moved. You go to the bathroom and notice the fragrant smell of potpourri, a mixture of flower petals, spices, tree bark, and dried fruits. It was usually in a sack, or she laid out a whole medley in a wicker basket to mask any unpleasant smells from a bathroom. The decorative bathroom towels, embroidered with intricate flowers and birds, were strictly for show and forbidden to be used. The actual use towels hung under the sink. You are supposed to use them to dry your hands. You went to use the bathroom, but what do you see here? Why is the toilet seat lid covered? It's pink and fluffy with a matching floor mat. It matches the pink color scheme, just like in the 50s. You are bewildered by its function. It doesn't keep the toilet seat warm. We suppose every room needs to feel warm and cozy. Right on the toilet tank was the toilet paper roll cover doll. You didn't think the bathroom would go without a doll, would you? Her crocheted skirt hides the spare roll. Her name is Priscilla, and she had different skirts for different seasons. You were fascinated and slightly unnerved she was there and saw you do your business. Don't worry, in your time of need, she was there to help you. If you were bored at Nana's house, she might have shown you the old toys your parents played with. They might have been in the attic, basement, or your mom or dad's room, which she hasn't touched. This was your father's Legos, or your aunt's roller skates. Each toy was unique as you saw a different side of your parents. They were once your age. If you had a sleepover at Nana's house, she'd look over her collection of classic children's books for Storytime. She had classic golden books featuring the gold spine, a set of Dr. Seuss, and her prized first edition of Make Way for Ducklings. She'd settle into her chair with you on her lap and read the same stories she'd shared with your mom or dad. Her voice would change for each character. The big bad wolf always sounded like a grumpy old man who smoked cigarettes. From kitschy figurines to dolls, the whimsical, lively atmosphere your grandma created didn't end in the house. You step out to her garden and you see ornamental garden gnomes. They stood guard in military precision along her flower beds. Each had a name and a backstory. Harold liked fishing. Gertrude tended the roses, and mischievous Billy always seemed to move overnight. They sparked your imagination and made you wonder about the lives they lived. Of course, she'd knitted tiny scarves for each one when it got chilly in the fall. There you have it. We hope this video brought back fond memories of your grandmother. If you enjoyed this video, watch another one. Here's a video about things your grandparents had in the 80s and 90s, coming soon.